and I want to try to clarify things. That if you weren't at the meeting, you may be misled as to what's really happening. And I want to lay everything out and make sure everybody is on the same page here. I'll start out by, it was the commissioner's idea to make a change. And that came about, yes, we did vote on the original project with a base product that was given to us. As we proceeded, we received some information about that particular product. The issue I'm having is that nobody's really talked about that much as to why we don't want it. So I'm going to lay it out that it's non-recyclable, it's expensive, and by looking at an alternative, we're going to save some money. And I want to thank Commissioner Reisig for doing that. He contacted me and said, you guys maybe ought to be taking a look at this stuff that you're using. And through, well, both of these, both Mark and Russ have done literally hours of phone calls, road driving, asking questions, getting information, trying their very best to bring as much information to us as possible so that we can make a good decision. But nowhere along the line has anybody said, yeah, that's good. Keep going, guys, you're doing a good job.
Except for our constituents.
Our constituents are. I've received numerous phone calls and people that have come up. And I appreciate that what we're trying to do. And what we don't want out there is that this board would approve and do something that would be something less than what needs to be on that road. And I've asked the question several times, and we're not going to go all the way into it. Are we going to have the same kind of roads that we have everywhere else? And we're talking to the experts. We're talking to, and I didn't know this, we're talking to an individual that works for the construction company that's been there since he was 14 years old and has laid hundreds of miles of the product that we're going to put down. And the excuses are a mile long as to why we shouldn't, because it doesn't meet the tensile strength. We've already said we're going to put enough asphalt on top to make up that difference so that we don't have to use that. This other product is not used other than in repair work that we know of, other than one road, and that's ours, out on the Sugar Factory Road. And if I could go back 5 years, I'd vote against it, knowing now what knowing then what I know now. You know, we've asked the question about that this road, well, let me back it up. We have been accused, I guess, of doing things behind people's back. That hasn't happened. Everything that we have done, whether it be via email or phone calls or whatever, was discussed right here in this room. Right here, it didn't go anywhere else. And when we talk about behind the scenes, I think that's what a comment that was made. Behind the scenes, decisions were being made, whatever. Right here is behind the scenes, folks. Right here. Right here in this room. That's the behind the scenes things that were done in public meetings where everybody had an opportunity to attend, as far as, and that wasn't good enough. Then we decided that we needed to check all of our emails to make sure that we weren't doing anything illegal. That was done. You can look at mine anytime you want to. There weren't any decisions made in those emails. Yes, they were sent out to everybody, but they were for information purposes only, and I guess we can't do that, according to our county attorney, which we will cease and desist from doing that. It was a good way of communicating. We meet every 2 weeks, so we have an opportunity to share information, to share something. We're done. We won't be doing that anymore, and that's still up for question. But the good news about that is that since we were doing that, we've been checking other people's emails too. County emails. And it's kind of interesting, the information that we get. And so you know, I'll leave that to where it is. So as far as how we're going to communicate, I'll make a phone call or whatever the case might be at 4 o'clock in the morning if we decide to close up because of the storm. I'll make sure to call everybody so that you all know. No email.
So we can only email one person. If we email two,
well, we can email two.
We cannot. We have a quorum with two. We can only email one person. reach.
And I want to make this very clear that as a board, in the years that I've been on, when our department heads bring us something, 99% of the time, we go, yeah, that's great, that's a good idea. Because that's what they're hired to do. When Lisa comes to us with her proposals, either in finance or wherever, we go, you're the one that's doing it. Why would I question what you're doing? And unfortunately, we're gonna have to start looking a little bit deeper because of this particular thing. I know I'm gonna look closer at proposals and things that come, whether it be communications and ask a lot more questions, and we'll try to do our best to do what needs to be done. And I don't like having to do that, but we will, because that's our job.
That's our job.
That's our job, and our job is to make sure that we spend the county's money wisely, that we get a product that is going to be, that is going to work. And again, we're not going to beat up all of the things that we've talked about, whether we go with 4 inches or 6 inches or 3 inches or what one's going to do or what. We've already made that decision. We're going to move forward with it. But I think people understand that, again, this board would not put an inferior product down on a roadway. It's not going to happen. But if we get a proposal and we find something that is maybe better, maybe less expensive, and we might be able to do more road for about the same amount, that's our job. That's what we should be doing. We're not rubber stampers. We're not a bunch of bobbleheads up here just going, yeah, that looks good. Not going to happen anymore. And I feel bad about that, but I'm afraid that's the way we're going to have to do things. So I wanted to lay that out. And when we get to the engineer portion, Mark has some things that you visited with that he's going to bring out. And because that went back and forth. Do we need one? Do we not? Is this a repair job? Is it a maintenance job? Is it whatever? I'm done with it. I don't care what we call it. What I want to call it is finished. And we need to get moving on it. So anyway, and I hope that everybody's listening and paying attention to that, so that people understand that we just didn't pull things out of the air. There was a lot of research that was done before we made the decision that we made. And we think it was a good decision. Again, we were talking to the people that do the work. This product we're putting down is hundreds of miles of this stuff is all over the state of Nebraska. And it seems to work. It seems to work fine. But it wasn't given to us as an alternative when we did the original bid. It came after the fact, and we said, you know what, maybe we ought to go this way. And we're going to save some money. And hopefully we don't eat it up at all the other fees and things that we've got going on. Keep our fingers crossed. So, and if anybody wants to add to that, feel free.
I'll jump in with some comments. This is, I think the taxpayer should be happy that this is a working board. You know, we're not just rubber stampers. We go out and we work during the week for the benefit of the county taxpayer. And I don't think we did anything wrong with our emails. Sharing information is all that was done. You know, there were even some lawyers who said the county may or may not have broken the law. And then, you know, we get some headlines in the newspaper that are pretty inflammatory headlines with no evidence in the article. Is you know, it was very frustrating. You know, we know that the product we chose is recyclable, and that was very important to the board, was that we could go back and we could mill it up and lay it back down if we had to. We're being good stewards of the environment by doing that. And the other part about this is that this product, this fiber mat that we chose to go with has been in research since 2009, and nobody has come and said, do not use this product. You know, this is a road that does not get the same amount of traffic as Sugar Factory Road. I would say that, you know, whatever the product that was used on Sugar Factory Road was probably the right one. And we're going with the product that supposedly may make the life of the road a little bit less than if it was as highly traveled as Sugar Factory Road, but that's not the case. I think what we're doing here is the right decision with the product we went with. And, we'll find out. We'll find out in 7 or 8, 9 years if it was the right decision. But I feel confident that it is, and that the road will hold up as long as the application and everything is done correctly moving forward.
I said last meeting that I was going to contact Dave Schaff from MC Schaff and talk to him about being at this meeting. He and I had a conversation on the phone, and he said simply that he would be happy to be here if he needed to be, but he said, here's my position. He said, he said it's true that I agreed that he did have enough information to create a spec for the newer product, I call it the fiber mat product, and that he could write a spec for that and could substantiate that in a change order. And he said, I said that, and he said, I stand by that, and he said, I wrote it, and the change order was written. He said, but I didn't, he said, if I left the impression that I was in favor of that option, I wasn't. And so he said that's one of the reasons, that along with just the discussions that had went on between commissioners, and then he working with Linda, and then ultimately not being excited about that product anyway. He felt that it would be appropriate for their firm not to continue with the construction phase, being the engineer. And I thought that was a great big deal when it first came up. But then Linda showed us that his contract did not include construction from the very beginning. That contract was for design only, and that anything to do with the construction would be negotiated at a further point. He also mentioned their work schedule. And so by the time I was done talking with him on the phone, I understood his position a little better, and wasn't quite so concerned about what I thought originally was just simply them pulling out, so to speak. And that really wasn't the case. In fact, he said, not so much anymore, but he said at one time there was times when the state of Nebraska even had one firm design it and one firm inspect it. He said they really don't do that anymore, but that used to be part of the process years ago. And so that seems a little strange to me, but he said they really don't do that much anymore. So anyway, I was satisfied with his answer, and I just wanted you to know that. And he said, based upon that, he said I won't plan to be here tonight, and I thought that was fine. And I appreciate what they've done, and they've worked through the design process as far as they have.